On day one of free agency, the Detroit Pistons signed Caris LeVert to a 2-year contract. And in today's episode, I'll tell you guys why I'm not the biggest fan of this trade and why there's more to come for the Detroit Pistons in free agency. I'll tell you guys all of that. Today's episode, Locked on Pistons podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked on Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked on Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Ku Khahil. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for the last 4 years with the Locked on Network. I've been a credential media member for the last 3 years. I appreciate all of you guys' support, all of you guys who make this podcast your first listen of every single day. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. We have crossed 11,000 subscribers. I appreciate all of you guys. Now we're working our way to 12,000. Let's get there, hopefully before the start of the season. And also, you guys can leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. That's another great way to support the podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. In today's episode, later on, I'll be breaking down the rumors about Malik Monk potentially being signed and traded to the Detroit Pistons and what I am hearing about what's going on with that. I'll tell you guys all that later on. Then we'll discuss what's next for the Pistons after they complete this Schroeder sign and trade, if that happens. After signing LeVert, what's next for the Pistons? What's going on? We'll talk about that later as well. But let's start with Caris LeVert. And Caris LeVert, I see, has caused a division already within the Pistons community because some people like it and some people don't. What I want to start here with, I want to start with the positives. Because I went to bed. You guys, I think a lot of people know I'm not a fan of this signing, but I went to bed and just try to give it some time, look at some number, like try to figure out something that makes me see some positives in it. And here are the positives. Caris LeVert, theoretically, is a bigger ball handler that can go get his own shot. That is what Caris LeVert is. This past year, for half the season with Cleveland, and then half the season with Atlanta, he was having the best year, or he did have the best year of his career. He shot 37% from deep. He shot 47% from the floor. He shot 55% on twos, which is by far a career best outside of his rookie season, much less volume. He was by far much more efficient this past year, 58 true shooting percentage. That is way blowing out any other season of his career when it comes to efficiency-wise, which we'll get into later. So if he can play like he did last year for the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Atlanta Hawks, it's not as bad. It won't be as bad to me if he's able to replicate how he played this past year for the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Atlanta Hawks. The problem that I have, or actually let me continue to go with some of the positives. The other positive, he's a fine defender. He has size. So this would allow you to play like a Marcus Sasser next to him because you have a bigger guard next to him who can check like the bigger wings, and Sasser can guard the point guard. So if you want to go with that route, you can do that. He's bigger. He's longer. He does give effort defensively. He has shown at times throughout his career to be a fine defender. At other times he hasn't. But last year he was a pretty good defender for Atlanta at least. So he should theoretically allow you to play Sasser with him. Or any other smaller guard, if you want to call Ivey a smaller guard, I guess. But I'm more so thinking Sasser if they wanted to go that route. And he's a point guard. He basically is going to, I'm viewing this, he's going to take over Dennis Schroeder's role. Schroeder leaves, so now Caris LeVert will be your backup point guard, basically is how I'm looking at it. He's going to be the guy running your offense. He's going to be the guy with the ball in his hands. He's going to be the guy, soaking up all that usage. That's going to be him. So he's not coming in and replacing Malik or anything like that. He's coming in and replacing Schroeder. He has size. He plays some defense. He theoretically can create his own shot. And this past year, for this past season, he did have the best season of his career where he shot 37% from deep, 40% with Cleveland, 33% with Atlanta. Maybe he remains that efficient. Maybe this past year is an outlier and he remains that efficient. If he does, it's a much better signing. So those are some of the positives. Those are the best positives that I can come up with. Also, the contract, by the way, here's another one. The contract is 100% tradable. You could trade at the deadline, which I think is something that certainly could happen here. It's a 2-year, $29 million contract. It's not a long-term extension. It's not a long-term contract they signed him to. that's not too big of a deal with me. You could do that with just about anybody you signed. Like, I'm not going to give like major grades for, oh, you signed player X to a 2-year contract. I mean, they could have signed multiple players here for a 2-year contract. Didn't have to go 4 or 5 years with every single player. Now, maybe you would have had to in Nickeil Alexander-Walker, which is a fair account if you just don't want to go long-term money with him. Fair. But there's a bunch of other players in free agency you can offer a 2-year mid-level exception to, and you would have got the same response. But the contract is 100% tradable. It's not long-term, and you can flip it at the deadline. That's the other thing. You have another mid-sized contract now. So if the Pistons do want to make a trade in the season, they don't have to choose between Stu or Tobias. Now they have someone else that maybe they don't want as much that they can move. They don't have to move one of their valued players like that. So that is another positive. Now here are the concerns for me. And this is why I'm not a fan of the signing, but I hope it works out. Obviously, I hope it works out, but I'm just not that big of a fan of it. First reason. Caris LeVert over the last decade has been one of the most inefficient scorers on any type of volume in the entire league. That's not me being hyperbolic. That's not me exaggerating. He has been one of the most inefficient scorers on any type of volume over the last 10 years. From 2016-2017 season to the 24 season, he has had a 52 true shooting percentage. That is 7 consecutive seasons. Over a 7-year stretch, he has been... You guys know how bad 52 true shooting percentage is? League average now is like around 56%. 7 consecutive years of being and this is with him being inefficient, and his primary like plus to him is, hey, I'm a scorer. So, but he's for the large majority, outside of one season we saw last year, and maybe that 1 year is the outlier, or maybe the 7 years is the outlier, and 1 year is what he actually is. Maybe. Let's hope that's the case. That's what I'm hoping for to be the case. But for 7 years, he's been one of the most inefficient scorers when his main plus is I soak the ball up, possessions up, and I score. That's what I do. So my question is, unless he is as efficient as he was this past year and not over those 7 years, is given an inefficient scorer who can't play off ball, needs the ball in his hands, is giving him the ball and allowing him to soak up possessions worth not having the ball in Jaden Ivey or Ausar Thompson's hands this upcoming year to get some ball handling out of them. I was under the impression that this upcoming season should be about evaluating your young guys and evaluating what they can and can't do so you can make decisions on them. Caris is taking the ball out of Ivey and Ausar's hands if you want to see some more ball handling reps out of them. The difference here for me between, like for last year, the Pistons went out and got veterans. They got THJ. They got Malik. They got Tobias. Even if you didn't like the Tobias contract, which you guys knew I was a fan of. I wanted them to get Tobias. But even if you weren't a fan of how much they paid Tobias, all 3 of those guys theoretically made sense in helping elevate the young guys. They provide spacing. Tobias provided size and actual spacing at the 4 positions where they've needed. THA and Malik played off of Cade, played off of Ivey, played off of Duren, played off of Ausar. Those guys were movement shooters that spaced the floor out for them. Didn't need the ball in their hands, brought gravity, made it easier for them to operate on the floor. Like those guys made sense. Those guys raised the ceiling of your young guys. I don't think Caris LeVert does that. He can't play off ball. He is not an off ball player. Caris LeVert is a pick and roll merchant. The only value you're getting out of him on the floor is if you're putting the ball in his hands and he's running pick and rolls. That is his only value. He is not going to go play off ball. He is not going to have spacing gravity. He's not going to movement shoot. He's not going to cut all that often. Last season, he only has 19 cut possessions. He's not going to cut all the time. He's not some off-ball play. The only value you are getting out of Caris LeVert is if you put the ball in his hands and you let him run pick and roll. And I don't see how that's helping Jaden Ivey. I don't see how that's helping Ausar, having a guy who has to soak up possessions. And he's not efficient at doing so. Unless you can. Last year he was efficient, yes. Last year was his first year ever being efficient. If he can be last year, maybe it works out. But I know the main swing factor to me, I've just never thought, and this was before free agency. This isn't just, Ku, you're being pessimistic because it's the Pistons. No, I said this before free agency. I've had this opinion of Caris LeVert for years. I have thought for years that Caris LeVert is not a good player. He is a guy who has to have the ball in his hands and is not efficient enough to have the ball in his hands as much as he needs it to. And for me, if he was that good at creating his own shot, and if he was that good to where you're okay with him taking the possessions up as much as he does for himself, Cleveland wouldn't have traded him, and then Atlanta wouldn't have gladly and willingly let him go so they could go get Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They got paid basically the same. Nickeil got just a little bit more, like $1 million more. If they felt that strongly about Caris LeVert and him being able and feel confident about putting the ball in his hands and letting him just take over possessions as much as he does, they felt that good, they wouldn't have immediately replaced him with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's an off-ball player. So another positive is that this past year, he actually was very good in the pick and roll. 90th percentile in 135 possessions. This past year was his best year he ever had. So hopefully he can replicate that. But if you go before, like in all the other seasons, you go 2024, 50th percentile in ball handlers, despite having 300 possessions as a pick and roll ball handler. He's not playing off ball. Transition, 38th percentile. Spot up, 20th percentile. Isolation, 20th percentile. Handoff, 22nd percentile. That's 2024. 2023, 17th percentile as a ball handler. 39th percentile transition. Like, only 53 possessions as a handoff, 32 possessions off screen, 29 possessions as a cutter. I hope he's as efficient as last year, and the amount of usage he's about to take up on this team off the bench, I hope it's worth it. I hope it's worth it. I hope he's efficient, because that's all I got. That's all I got for it. I much would have rather had an off-ball player, a player who doesn't need the ball in his hands to thrive, and a player I believe actually raises the ceiling. Because I don't think you can play Caris with Cade. You can't play Caris and Cade together. He doesn't help Cade. I don't really see how he helps Cade out. He's not spacing the floor for Cade. He's not moving off the ball for Cade. He's not running in transition like that for Cade. I don't see how he helps Cade. Now, you could make the argument that he may help Ivey in regards to, okay, Ivey doesn't have to run point guard anymore. But I've been told for months that they want to see Ivey. See if Ivey can be that combo guard, that if he has to have responsibilities, he can do it. He's not going to get those kind of reps now with Caris LeVert. So I don't know. I'm just praying and hoping that he is efficient as he was this past year, and it all becomes worth it. But as far as fit, especially with the news that we're about to get into with Malik Monk, I just don't get it. I really don't get it. But maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he comes out here and he continues to be super efficient like last year. And 7 years was the outlier, and this past year is the new him. Maybe so. And if that's the case, you'll deal with it. But I don't see the fit, and I don't get it. But let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. Do you guys like the Caris LeVert sign? Do you guys think the fit's right? Do you guys think the fit's wrong? Let me know how you guys feel. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. Coming up, Malik Monk being signed and traded to the Detroit Pistons. I'll tell you guys everything I'm hearing about what's going on behind the scenes coming up. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, why not make it even a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and a fun way to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing the same game parlay or watching a bet right into the 9th inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Again, if you're new to FanDuel, use $5. Oh, I apologize about that, but use $5. You'll get $150 in bonus bets, and if it wins, you get that $150 in bonus bets. So open up the FanDuel app today. Have fun. Check it out with FanDuel. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Appreciate all of you guys' support. All of you guys making Locked On Pistons your first listen every single day. Being everydayers. I appreciate all of you guys. And we, like I said, we crossed over 11,000 subscribers. I appreciate all of you guys for that. All right, so If you guys were in the playback room yesterday, which we had a ton of people in the playback room for a good 4.5 hours, we started up the playback at the beginning of free agency, and we just stayed in there, hung out, talked about free agency, and just reacted to all the news. So if they have some more news, if some more stuff drops, we probably will go live over there again. So if you guys want to join us over there, I'll link it down in the description down below. You can come hang out with all of us. We had like 150 people in there consistently, like 4.5 hours. But, so if you guys want to join it, go check it out. But if you were watching yesterday, you will see that around like 8:30-ish, I got up and said I had to go take a phone call. Now that it's all being talked about and it's all being leaked out, I had been hearing yesterday that the Pistons and the Kings were involved and were trying to get a Malik Monk sign and trade to happen that sends Dennis Schroeder to Sacramento and brings Malik Monk to the Pistons. Now, before we get into the fit, do I like Malik Monk, all that stuff, I just want to tell you guys everything I'm hearing as of 11 a.m. Everything I've heard since then. First thing I've heard is that one of the things I've heard is that the reason why it's not finalized yet is there is a lot of they are exploring all the possibilities, and that includes potentially rerouting Malik Monk to a third team. Now, Malik Monk may end up with the Pistons, and we'll talk about that later. I'd be fine with that. I'd actually be really happy with that. But the options are being explored that, okay, if we don't want Monk, or if is it possible for us to reroute Monk to another team that gets us something maybe we want a little more? I've heard that's something that's being explored as well. I've also heard that the Pistons, I have heard for the last 2 days now that the Pistons are desperately wanting to get off of Simone Fontecchio's contract. And I probably should have had Kyle on the podcast today for this. It's early. He's probably sleeping. Kyle is the Pistons salary cap guru in the Pistons community. So he probably would he'd make this sound more understanding. But this is just how I was told about it. I'm not crazy with the CBA to really understand the exact rules of what they're talking about. But they are desperately trying to move off of Simone Fontecchio's contract to create this outgoing salary. Because then if they can, for some way, I don't know if it's with an exception or how exactly, but the Pistons are trying to jump through a bunch of salary cap hoops, try to get really creative by, if they can send this outgoing salary of Schroeder and Fontecchio, and potentially, they don't have to do this, but potentially THJ, and then a sign and trade with Malik, this sends out enough salary to where they can try to be creative with another move that they want to make. So if they can find a way to include Tech, maybe send him to a third team, or maybe find somebody to take on Tech and also take out Malik while outgoing the salary of Schroeder and Tech, that frees up your flexibility even more to go after maybe another guy in a sign and trade. So all of that's where I'm hearing is kind of holding it up. I know somebody, I think it was Brett Seigel, reported that he heard that it's the Kings that are holding up the sign and trade, that they want more from the Pistons. I would say that that's not what I heard yesterday. That's not what I've heard. That certainly could be the case now, though. As of yesterday, that's not what I heard was going on. But there's been so much outrage. I don't know if you guys saw. There has been so much outrage from the Kings fan base after this news was leaked that I could certainly see that they saw that outrage and was like, okay, we gotta try. Let's fall back a little bit. We gotta get something more in return so this doesn't look as bad like they don't kill us as much. That certainly could be on the board. But as of yesterday, that's not what I heard. That certainly could be the case now, though. Either way, the Pistons are exploring all possibilities here. That's why it hasn't been finalized. My understanding, they are trying to explore every possibility out there, and they really want to find a way to offload Simone Fontecchio's contract. Which to me, if you really want to do that, you can just attach 2 to 3. They have a ton of seconds. I think they have 3 in 2028, 2029, and 2030. Like, they have a bunch of seconds. If they really want to get rid of Tech's contract, I think that you could just attach a couple seconds to get it worked and get it worked out. But maybe, Trajan talked about how the price to get into the first round was way more this offseason. Maybe the price of just offloading Tech's contract is way more this offseason because of the CBA. Who knows? I don't know that. But I do know I did know for a few hours beforehand that they've been trying. The Malik Monk sign trade is very legit. I know that Malik Monk coming to the Pistons is certainly on the board, but what's on the board is also them maybe rerouting him to the third team. That's also making this go on a little bit longer. And also I know that they're trying to get Tech's salary outgoing as well to create some more flexibility for them. And maybe if they can come to terms with THJ, where his first year is around like $19 million and the rest of his contract's non-guaranteed, have that salary outgoing as well so they can add 2 players. I know that's what's circling right now in the Pistons front office. They're trying to get real creative, and I can commend them for that, for what's happened with Malik. They have to get creative. They're trying everything possible to try any way to kind of keep the roster level-headed after the bomb that is Malik Beasley not coming back. Or not coming back is maybe a little strong, but obviously we know what I'm talking about. Being investigated, you have to move on, et cetera, et cetera. Now I'll talk about what I feel about with Malik Monk. Malik Monk would be great for this team. I absolutely love Malik Monk. He's developed a ton as a playmaker. He's become a really good passer, a really good playmaker. For 4 consecutive seasons, I feel like he was very good. Very good. Before this past year, I think for 4 consecutive seasons, he was just flat out very good. Really good scorer. Has become a really good playmaker. Can play on and off ball. That's another thing I like about him. He doesn't have to have the ball in his hands running everything to be effective. He can play on and he can play off the ball. He was runner-up for 6th Man of the Year. Just, I believe, wasn't that last year or 2 years ago? Malik Monk, I think, is a really good player. Problem is, this past year, his three-point shooting fell down. This is the inverse of the Caris LeVert to me. This past year, he shot 32% from deep. The previous 4 seasons, Malik Monk, on decent volume, was shooting around 37% from deep. I am going to trust that 4-year sample size over 1 year when he had a down year. He has been a good shooter for from 2020 to 2024, he had been a good shooter. And a lot of that is coming off of pull-ups and difficult threes. So I trust, I don't think he's all of a sudden a 32% three-point shooter. We have a long sample of him being a good three-point shooter. I think he just had a down shooting season. Hold on. Oh my God, Miles Turner went to the Bucks? You guys are getting my live reaction here. Miles Turner just left the Pacers and went to the Bucks. Okay, I gotta stay on topic. Okay, all right, let me get back to topic. My fault. That's crazy. I think that Malik Monk is going to be a good shooter again. He's 26 years old. I don't think all of a sudden he stopped being able to shoot the ball. The other thing is he is maintained as a really good finisher inside the arc. He shot 53% on twos this year. Over the last 5 years, he's been around a 54-55% shooter inside the arc. So despite his three-point shot falling off this past year, he remained a good finisher within the arc. He remained good in the floater range. He remained good in all of that. His three-point shot just fell off. So Malik Monk, I think, is really good. I'd like him. I think he fits much, much better with Ivey. I think he fits much, much better with Cade. I think he fits much, much better with Duran, Asar. I think if you told me they went out and got him, I would have been on, because I think he fits much more clearly with what you want with the roster. And I think he's just by far much better. A down season efficiency-wise this past year for Malik Monk would have been a career high for Caris LeVert outside of this past year. That would have been a career high for him. So I like Malik Monk the player, and I think he would have fit really good. Now, with Caris LeVert now, and Malik Monk on the team, and Ivey, and Cade, and now Chaz, and Marcus Sasser, and it seems like the Pistons want to replace Malik Beasley's movement shooting somehow. They've been linked to Duncan Robinson. I think that's very real. If you get him, does that all fit together? Does that all make the most sense? Maybe not. Maybe not the most sense. The counter would be, you just get good players. Good players figure it out. And I get that. And I won't completely push back against that. You have more good players, you figure it out. Sure. But does it all fit the cleanest together? Probably not. I mean, and people aren't going to like to hear this, but this is probably, I think if people bring an objective, this is probably the cleanest way to look at it. If you try to make it fit the most, you stagger Ivey and Cade with, you probably play Cade with Monk, and then Ivey with LeVert, because Monk can play off ball a little more. But then also, again, you want Ivey with Cade so you can get more minutes of them. But do you really want Monk and LeVert playing together where LeVert's taking more possessions out of Monk's hands? It's like the fit isn't the greatest right now. It could work. I don't think it's crazy bad. It's just a little bit wonky. I guess that's the best way to put it. It would be a little bit wonky. But I think you absolutely do it. I think, first of all, you don't lose Schroeder for nothing. I think that's number one. Schroeder gone, Malik gone, but at least you're getting something in return for Schroeder. That would be reason number one. But then reason number two, I think Malik Monk would instantly become your second best guard on the roster. I think he's much better than Caris LeVert. I think he's better than Ivey right now. So I think you 100% do it if you can. As long as things don't fall through, I think the Pistons should pull the trigger on this. But that's me hoping that it doesn't fall through. The fact that we're at 11-11 right now when I'm recording this, and we haven't had it finalized yet, tells me that one of two things. One, the Pistons, or maybe even the Kings, but I believe the Pistons are exploring all options possible and are still talking. Or two, one of the sides are getting cold feet. That's my two takeaways for why it's 11 right now and we still aren't hearing any progress on it. But we'll see what happens. Let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. How do you guys feel about Malik Monk? Would you guys like the Pistons acquiring Malik Monk? Let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. Coming up, what's next for the Detroit Pistons? They still have holes in this roster. What are they going to do? How do they address them? We'll talk about it coming up. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available to all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review or whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Appreciate all of you guys being everyday listeners, everydayers. Appreciate all of you guys. Sorry, I'm looking down at my phone. We're getting a bunch of notifications right now. I'm just trying to make sure this isn't anything Pistons related. Yeah, Buscelli's going to the Knicks. Okay. All right, nothing Piston related. Okay. I will say this. You know what? I'll go ahead and say it. Watch John Collins. Just keep your eye potentially on John Collins for the Pistons. That's all I'm gonna say. But what's next for the Detroit Pistons? Well, I want to make this clear. I feel bad for Trajan. I don't like the Caris LeVert signing. I'm not sitting here saying I do. Maybe it works out. Maybe he plays just as efficient as he did this last year. Okay, I get that. But I feel bad for Trajan because even despite that, you can't possibly just I don't believe the Pistons knew beforehand. People will continue to scream that at me. I'm telling you guys, I do not think the Pistons thought the investigation was being dropped the day before free agency. I don't care what any comments say. I don't care what any fans seem to believe. I am telling you guys, I don't believe they knew. Having that dropped on you the day before free agency changes your whole, that is something GMs just can't plan for, man. I feel bad for him because this is now back-to-back offseasons where he's probably feeling rushed, and now he's feeling like, okay, we got to recalibrate here. We got to make this all happen within a short amount of time. It was the same thing last year. Now you get this happening. I do not envy him at all. I don't envy Trajan at all. This is a really tough situation he gets put into. Because now you're losing Schroeder and you're losing Beasley for nothing. You're losing Beasley for nothing. You have to pivot immediately with how you want to use your MLE now. You weren't planning on that. It's tough. I don't envy him. It's not a great position to be in. It's tough. It is very tough on him. But acquiring Caris LeVert, the Pistons still have a ton of other holes. They need a backup for badly. In my opinion, I believed that instead of getting Caris LeVert and using your MLE on him, if you know that Malik is gone, and maybe you don't want to give the long-term money to Nikhil, which I don't really get. He's a good player, but okay, maybe you don't want to give Nikhil the long-term money. Fair enough. I would have then pivoted with my MLE to go get a backup four, or I would have went into the cap. I would have been a cap space team and tried to get a long-term, or not long-term, but a backup four. Because I think that the best way to offset Beasley's departure or missing piece, whatever, however you want to categorize what's going on with Beasley. I feel like the best way to handle that is to, you're not going to be able to replicate his shooting. You're just not. He hit 300 threes this past year. You can try to replicate his shot profile and try to get someone to maybe do some of it, but Beasley himself, you're not going to be able to replicate it. So I believe the best way to counter it would be like, okay, but we had a weakness as a 4, so we'll get another 4, make the 4 room a very strong play. So we have 48 minutes consistently of good power forward minutes. I caught myself this time. Power forward minutes, and then went out and tried to get Duncan Robinson, which it sounds like they're still trying to do. And I feel like that if you got Duncan Robinson and you had a strong 4 to play with Tobias behind him, I think then your roster is a much more balanced out. And I feel like that better offsets the missing, the randomness of the Malik news. I feel like that would have been better balancing. Now, I'm like I said, they're trying to do more moves, so it's very possible, very, very much, I'm telling you guys, very, very much possible that they end up with LeVert, maybe Monk, and then at power forward with what all these hoops they're trying to jump through. It's very much on the board still. But with that said, Pistons they do need to go get a backup 4. That is a high priority. They have to get a movement shooter that can replicate Beasley's shot profile and some of his gravity. They have to do both of those things. Those two things have to happen. It's day 2 of free agency. Well, what? What? The Bucks are waiving Dame? The Bucks are waiving Dame? Dog, what? I know this is my live. This is all happening live, man. This is like my live reactions. Like, what? Okay, but yeah, the Pistons have to get a movement shooter. They have to get a backup 4. Those are 2 things they have to get. And if they get Malik Monk and they have Caris LeVert, it would be really tough to get both those guys and then still get a movement shooter and a power forward. I don't think that's possible. You could probably maybe get one of those. So which one do you think is more valuable to get after that? I would say you're a backup 4. And then you just hope that Malik Monk kind of replaces some of Malik's scoring off the bench just in a different way. Maybe you don't get the movement shooting. Maybe they truly believe Chaz is him. And maybe they believe we have the movement shooting on the roster. Again, it's going to be hard to convince people in the offseason. Maybe you easily can convince them during the regular season if he plays well. But in the offseason, it's going to be hard to convince somebody that, hey, our second-round pick is going to replace 300 threes from Malik Beasley. It's going to be hard to convince that to people. But maybe the front office is that high on him, and they're like, we'll prove you guys right in the regular season. Maybe that's the case, and we'll just have to wait to see on that. But if they get Monk and obviously they have Caris, but if they get Monk too, I think the next priority has to be the 4. That's what I think. I think you have to get a 4, then you just hope you can create some shooting on the roster. That's what I believe, but let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. How do you guys feel about this? Where are you guys standing right now at the Pistons free agency? What should be their next moves? Let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. That's all I've got for you guys today. My goodness. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay safe out there. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen every single day. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there. Until next time, peace out.